this lesson, we will discuss how we may define a computer. We will also discuss what are programmed instructions, and lastly, we will try to understand the difference between data and information with examples. Now let's get started. Computer may be defined as an electronic device that stores data, processes the data according to a predefined set of programmed instructions, and displays the desired output. Processing means performing some kind of arithmetic or logical operations on the data. The arithmetic operations could be addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, whereas the logical operations determine how the values compare with each other. For example, determining which of the two values is larger or smaller for that matter. Once you perform these arithmetic or logical operations on the data, you get meaningful information. Therefore, we may say that computer is an electronic device that converts data into meaningful information. Now, every computer, irrespective of the type it belongs to, is controlled by a set of programmed instructions. These instructions are basically programmed in a way so as to assist the computer in carrying out different tasks. Without instructions, computer is merely a dead machine. It is the instructions that direct the computer what to do and give the machine a purpose. Please bear in mind that the term computer has been derived from compute, which means to calculate. So any device that performs some sort of computation or calculation is by definition a computer. As we just stated, that computer is an electronic device that transforms data into information. So it's essential to understand the difference between these two terms, namely data and information. Let's first see what is data. Data is basically the raw collection of facts that, taken alone, doesn't make any sense to the user. Or in other words, we may say that it's a raw collection of facts and figures that by themselves do not add any value for the user. Now let's see what is information. Information is basically the data that has been processed in a way that it becomes meaningful for the user. So once you perform some sort of arithmetic or logical operations on the data, you get information, and this information then becomes meaningful for the user. Okay?
Let us now try to understand the difference between data and information with the help of an example. In this example, we are comparing the grade point averages or the GPAs of different students. You can see that student A has obtained a GPA of 2.5, student B has obtained a GPA of 3, student C has obtained a GPA of 3.5, and students B, E, and F have obtained GPAs of 2.8, 4, and 2 respectively. However, these numbers don't mean a lot to you, or in other words, they are not useful for you. But using the same data, if you draw a bar graph, now it becomes a lot easier to visually compare the GPA obtained by different students, and it is also a lot easier to rank the GPA of different students. So looking at this figure, it is now easier to see that student E has obtained the highest GPA and student F has obtained the lowest GPA. Or in other words, we have now converted the same data into information. Okay. Now let us try to understand the difference between data and information with the help of some more examples.
A piece of data such as a letter of an alphabet conveys little sense by itself. However, if you use letters of alphabets to write paragraphs and then organize those paragraphs in the form of book chapters or sections, then this becomes meaningful to you, or in other words, it becomes information. Likewise, different pieces of data such as your personal statement, your job experience, the details of the projects that you have undertaken, and the companies you have worked with could be placed in some form of meaningful context such as a CV or a resume. This now becomes meaningful information because the data has now been placed in some form of meaningful context. Now let's discuss what we have studied in this lesson. We discussed that computer is an electronic device that stores data, processes the data according to a predefined set of programmed instructions, and gives the desired output. We also discussed that processing means performing some form of arithmetic or logical operations on the data. Next, we studied what are programmed instructions. Every computer, irrespective of its type, is controlled by a set of programmed instructions that basically dictate the computer what to do. So without these instructions, computer is merely a dead machine. Next, we saw the difference between data and information, and we saw that computer is an electronic device that transforms data into information. Data was defined as the raw collection of facts and figures that by themselves do not make any sense to the user, or in other words, they don't add any value for the user. However, once you perform some form of arithmetic and logical operations on the data, it now becomes meaningful for the user, and or in other words, you could say, if you place the data in some form of meaningful context, then it becomes information. Okay, so I hope you are now clear what is a computer, what are programmed instructions, what is the difference between data and information. So this brings us to the end of this lesson. See you in the next lesson.